Hi everybody, it's time for another weekly leadership truth. And this week's leadership truth is a tongue twister, is that expectations are like quicksand. Do you remember when you used to watch the after school specials, especially if I was a huge fan of Gilligan's Island, and they'd be like walking along and then all of a sudden, they're in quicksand. And they're like, where did that come from? I feel that way about job expectations today. The world is changing so fast that you might think you know what's expected of you on the job, but because the environment is so crazy, VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, it's impossible to stay ahead of the curve sometimes. When I'm coaching people, one of the things that I will always ask is, do you know your boss's expectations of you? And you know what? Most people don't. Or if they know the deliverable stuff. Like I always think in organizations, there's two sides to the balance sheet. There's the side that's like, what do you have to deliver, right? Sales numbers, reports, blah, 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 like all that stuff. That's really easy, and your manager's gonna give you a ton of feedback on that. The other stuff is how you're supposed to do stuff, right? You know, learning agility and being curious and collaborating with others and all of those soft skills, right? We gotta stop soft skills. It makes it sound like it's just so meaningless. This is the hard stuff. This side of the equation, that's the side that's gonna screw your career. So here's the thing. If you are sitting here right now going, ooh, I don't know if I do know my boss's expectations of me, create a little grid. And I want you to write down all the things you have to do. And then I want you to write down, what does meeting expectations look like? What does exceeding expectations look like? And what does below expectations look like from your perspective? So an example might be, if I use something in my life like, Shelby, who many of you who are familiar with the Roundtable team know and love Shelby as much as we know and love Shelby. One of Shelby's things is to make sure that stuff is ready to go for our programs. So meeting expectations is, I have all the materials I need for the programs at least a day before I have to go in and deliver a program. Exceeding expectations is that I have that stuff a week before. That's going to super wow me. Below expectations is, I don't have the materials when I need them, stuff is missing, and I'm stressed out on the day of, right? So that's what I want you to do, is I want you to think about exceeding, meeting, and below, and then go in with your boss and say, hey, I put this together, I just want to make sure we're on the same page, right? It's the same, a simpler way to do this if you're like, oh, Glenn, that's too much work. A simpler way is to ask your boss, what's success going to look like in 6 months or in a year? A simple question like that, okay? Now, that's all about you. I want you also to stop and think about, how clear have you been with the people below you on expectations? And if you have somebody right now who's really bugging you, like they're dropping the ball and it's driving you nuts, I do want you to do that expectations grid. And I want you to start with all the stuff that they're doing that's driving you crazy. Then I want you to fill in what would meeting look like, and then I want you to fill in what would exceeding look like, and then I want you to sit down and when you give that to the person and have a conversation about it so that you can both get aligned on expectations. Because I think there's a lot of things that happen in organizations where we expect people to just pick it up through osmosis, and we don't. Stuff needs to be spelled out, okay? If you have somebody who's super introverted who's on your reception desk, you might need to actually say to them, when people come in, smile, look up, make eye contact, ask them if they want a coffee, right? Because an introvert's natural tendency may not be to do that. Just like if you have an extrovert in an open concept, you might need to tell them, hey, when there's quiet time, I need you to put on your headphones and zip your lip. Of course, you'd say it in a nicer way than that, but you get my point, okay? Anyway, expectations, they are trickier than quicksand these days because of the changing nature of the world of work. So if you're not having continuous conversations about what the expectations are, I encourage you to get on that ASAP, okay? Thanks for tuning in, and tune in again next Tuesday for our next installment of Leadership Truths, and I will be back on Friday with my video ranting about it. And if you've got a truth for me, send it in. I am happy to give you your 15 minutes of fame. Thanks so much.